Welcome in to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. A podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and those who cover the NBA on a daily basis. It's time to flock up. The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. It is a fun and winning Wednesday, February 26th. Gus Kattengell along with Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com, and, of course, a very happy Jim Eichenhofer, because last night, sir, you got to go on the post-game show and do what?
Talk about another victory, talk about another comeback from down by pretty big in the double figures. So, yeah, it was excellent to beat the Spurs 2 games in a row and show a lot of fortitude by being down. I think it was it 19 in the first one and then 17 in the second game, and be able to win both of those. So that was really good. I think I flipped it. It was 17 on Sunday, 19 on Tuesday.
109-103 was the final. In case you missed it, shame on you. Or if you're in the arena, it's okay, I got you. If you want to hear what it sounded like on the Pelicans Radio Network, here you go.
Post left Bruce Brown. One-on-one with Champagnie. Dotted line, pass to Karlo, right corner three.
That's his shot.
Feathery.
That's his shot.
Feathery. All of Matkovic's made threes this year, and now that 7 of them have been in the corner, either left or right.
That man works on that shot, and it shows.
Now Vassell threw it out, nearly stolen. Ball on the deck. Great job by Bruce Brown. Get it to McCollum, to Murphy. Extra pass, Z, and a lefty punch.
Yeah, you probably don't draw it up that way.
Hot potato.
But you'll take it however you can get it.
McCollum for 3 in and out. Rebound, Trey Murphy. Murphy, kick it back to Bruce Brown, drives the lane, and he will hammer it down, Cowboy.
There he is, wrangling them.
On Sunday night. Right now it's 49-40. And then they lose it again. Z wins the race.
There you go, Z.
Spins right. Finger rolls it up and in over Vassell, and another timeout taken by the San Antonio Spurs.
The team with the energy, the ball is finding them. The Pelicans have been swarming, and they're making use out of that defense and that energy, turning it into offense.
Remember, McCollum, throw it up to Eve Misi, cutting right baseline in a 2-hand flush.
I'll tell you what, the Pelicans' lot percentage isn't great, but when it goes, it looks nice.
Oh, good job. Poked away from Fox guy. Z will lob it up to Murphy for an emphatic alley-oop dunk. It started on the defensive end. Z led the break, and that is a beautiful pass to Trey.
Look, when these guys get the ball loose, they're able to convert, and Trey a skywalker.
Paul with 4 to shoot. Threw it across court to Johnson. Double pump, take a 3. Brick City. Rebound Olynyk, that's his 10th.
Push it.
Up the floor, Hawkins drives to the rack. Through defenders, lays it in. Our first lead of the night.
Boy, this has been swimming upstream the whole game. But Hawk gives up the 3 for the layup.
And Hawk now in double figures with 10 points off the bench. Bad pass, but Matković knocked it to Hawk and tried a behind the back pass, no. Oh! And then Zion drives the lane, floats, and thunders it down. He had wings on his feet.
Z says, this is what we not going to do. We are not going to kick it out to me and give me a lane to the basket.
One dribble from the nail, and he just took off and dunked.
And business decisions were made.
Z low post left, backing down Sohan. Layup, nope. Got his own rebound. Layup good. Foul Sohan. Zion Williamson flex that left bicep.
Contorted on that one and just big boyed him because he's underneath the hoop. He's got his back to the basket when he shoots this and laid it in. That's just grown man.
Chris Paul, pocket pick Matković. Taken by Hawkins.
Give it up.
Alley-oop, Hawk from Alvarado.
Hawk for 2, a spit on that thing.
Now Fox sizing up Z. Hard drive. Lost it. Steal Bruce Brown. He doesn't have numbers, though. Brown will go to the rim and miss the layup. Follow-up dunk, Trey Murphy.
Well, best thing he did was force the issue even though he didn't have an angle, and Trey comes from the weak side to finish.
Good job by Trey not to give up on the play. Fox pulls up for three straight away. No. Rebound, Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown front court. Brown picked up his dribble, got it to the trailing Macy. Rises and dunks with a right hand. Timeout, San Antonio.
Punch it, Eve. That's a great secondary break, and that's the way you want to see that big fella finish.
I mean, we got springs in our shoes tonight, going back to Williamson's dunk.
And if you listen to those highlights, again, John DeShazer, Todd Graffinini, Jim Eichenhofer, it kind of previews what you kind of want to talk about here. Little defense, some players, their effectiveness on the court, and also some new additions and their impacts here as well. But as you can hear in that 4-minute highlight package, I couldn't pare it down. It was just so many plays that really led to the win.
And by the way, I think one of the things that makes me smile is the fact that you listen to those highlights, you listen to the energy from those two guys. You can hear it in the crowd a little bit in the background, and you watch the players on the court, and you would never know that they went into last night's game 29 games under 500 and not in realistic position to extend their season, even in terms of the play-in tournament. So, yeah, I mean, the energy has been really good these last couple games, and I think since the All-Star break, you've seen a lot of positives, and I think really, if you think about it too, the foundation. So I have to give a disclaimer first that we're only talking about 3 games since the All-Star break. Sure. We're not talking about 10, 20, a bigger sample of games. However, I thought it is worth looking at the way that they've done so far. And obviously, this coincides with Kelly Olynyk made his debut in the game Friday against Dallas. They've gone 2-1 in these 3 games that they've played since then. The Pelicans have shot 41% against Dallas from the field, 45% on Sunday against the Spurs, and then 44% Tuesday, which those are not good numbers. And I think earlier in the season, if you told me that's how they're going to shoot in 3 games in a row, I'd say those are all 3 losses because the defense is playing at a level where they cannot sustain being in the game if they're not shooting well and they're having stretches on offense where they're either not putting the ball in the basket or turning it over way too much, which is making it even worse in terms of the problems that the defense is having, preventing other teams from getting up to 120, 130 in a lot of these games. But, I mean, to me, the defense has really been the foundation of why not only have they won 2 out of the 3 games, but they were very competitive in the Dallas game as well. So we've seen just a lot different looking teams so far. And I wanted to kind of go through quickly, too, some of the numbers that we've seen so far that illustrate my point. I mean, in the 3 games since the All-Star break, if you look at the entire NBA since last Wednesday, which was the day, I love bringing this up again, the day that the Charlotte Hornets beat the Lakers, which was the one game last Wednesday. That was so since that game was played in LA, if you look at all of the stats across the league for all 30 teams, the Pelicans are only 20th in points per game. They're only 27th in three-point percentage. They're 18th in free throw percentage. They're 23rd in offense overall. So you take all the stats and you look at the efficiency, they're 23rd. So they're not playing offense at a great level, and I think there's things that they left on the table last night in some of these games where you say they're probably going to start making shots in the paint at a better rate than they have so far. They're probably going to start making open threes at a better percentage than what they have so far. But they're winning. They won 2 games against the Spurs, and they hung in there against the Mavs until the last couple minutes because right now, small sample, 3 games. They're 3rd in defensive rating since the All-Star break in the entire league. And then we've talked a little bit lately, too, about the rebounding. They're 6th in offensive rebounding percentage, 2nd in defensive rebounding, 3rd in rebounding percentage overall. So they've turned into a kind of a top 5 team on the backboards over these last few games. You know, Kelly Olynyk has been a big part of that as well, but, you know, Karlo Matković playing more minutes. Yves Missi continues to rebound really well. So it's really just a matter of they're overcoming not playing great offense because of their defense, which is something that we almost never said in the first 50 or so games of the season.
It's interesting you say that because I know it's something that you were harping on for a while on our podcast. You were like, this defense has got to get better, and we all kind of chuckled. We were like, oh, look at the offense. You're like, dude, the defense is really what it is. And let's be honest, in that Willie Green's calling card. I mean, that's kind of what he's known for with that. And to your point, I think if that came around and if they can perform offensively, because it's something you said it from the beginning of the season, C.J. McCollum's a better shooter than when we saw a starter. Trey Murphy. So I guess what you were trying to say is, those ingredients are going to be there. If you can get the other stuff going, you're going to start seeing, basketball like this. I kind of touched on something in the post game with you yesterday that maybe leads into why players plus minuses or defenses may be getting better with this team. We're seeing more time on the court with the same group of people. I know you're about to get to 2 new players, but for the most part, those 2 new players have either been on championship caliber teams or have been in big games. They're vets.
Yeah.
But everyone else that the Pelicans are throwing on the court, other than Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk, have been playing for 15, 20 games now in a row.
And I think the 2 new guys also are able to blend in pretty easily and quickly with their new teammates because they've been in the league for so long. I mean, Kelly Olynyk has been an instant. You fit him into the mix, and you would never know if you hadn't watched the Pelicans all season that he's a new player. So I think, too, I mean, I talked a lot about the defense, but I think the ball movement has also increased. I'd have to look at some of the stats if there's stuff to prove that in terms of second spectrum and some of the analytics. But, I mean, just from an eye test standpoint, it seems like the flow of the offense is better. There's not as many people holding on to the ball as long, and there's been fewer stagnant possessions. I remember you probably heard me. You remember me complaining in the first few months of the season how many times the shot clock would be down to 4 or 5, and they either hadn't gotten into the offense or they had to just throw something up to beat the shot clock. It feels like in these last 3 games that hardly ever has happened. There hasn't been in many situations where the coaches are yelling from the sideline, like, get a shot up because the clock is winding down. So I think that is a testament, too, to what Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown have done as well, is just the passing and the no one's holding on to the ball. I think people have already noted that with Kelly Olynyk, that as soon as he touches the ball, it's a quick decision. I'm either going to put it on the floor and go to the basket, I'm going to swing it to somebody, or I'm going to take a shot. He's not going to just sit there and dribble a few times. So, I mean, all of that I think has definitely factored in. But, like I said earlier, too, the offense has not played great since the All-Star break, but I think some of those things are areas that by the law of averages will get better. Just the fact that, I think Trey Murphy and CJ haven't shot that well from three-point range just in the small 3-game set, but going before that, they both had stretches where they were on fire, and I'm sure they'll get back to that as well over the last 20-something games of the season.
All right, plus minus. So this is a stat that I need you at times to define.
Explain, yeah.
Because sometimes it can be telling, and sometimes it can't. So that's why it's a tough stat. I mean, I think however, for the most part, it is a telling stat. It is something that you do use.
Yeah, the one thing we have to be careful about sometimes with the plus minus too is that I feel like sometimes people use it only when it backs up what they already believe.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely a part of it too. I mean, in the 3 games since the All-Star break for the Pelicans, I mean, for example, Jose Alvarado is a plus 30 in the 80 minutes that he's played. So that means the Pelicans have outscored their opponents by 30 points when Jose's in the game, which, I mean, over 3 games, 30 points is a lot. To average 10 points per game more. Karlo Matković has played 60 minutes. He's also a plus 30. Kelly Olynyk is plus 26 in his 72 minutes. And then Zion is plus 25 in his 85 minutes. So, I mean, those are 4 guys in particular that really stand out. We've seen this trend with Zion going back a ways where the team plays a lot better when he's on the floor. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, that they're going to be better when he's in the game than when he's on the sideline. But just those 4 guys in particular, though, have really good plus minuses so far. And I'll be curious to see if they can extend this out over the next couple months of the season, including on this road trip. Pelicans obviously have played a lot better at home lately. They've won 3 games in a row in the blender, which is great.
Yeah.
But I want to see them carry that over to the road and be able to show that over these next 4 games on this road trip.
Any other players to stand out on the plus minus column to you?
No, I mean, those are the main ones I think that are well over the break even mark.
I mean, 30 stands out.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yep.
Again, I was kind of impressed, right, when we got a chance to meet Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk, and they've had different impacts to start out here as well. Zion Williamson even mentioned a little bit about how he was teasing Bruce Brown to when we're going to see the Bruce Brown that we know. Yeah. And he mentioned he played in kind of the pickup game, and he just needed to get, he was coming off of injury and getting back into his rhythm and stuff. Are you surprised, though, the impact Kelly Olynyk has had. Here, listen to what Zion had to say on Kelly.
I mean, he's emphasized it all season, but, you know, with the new guy, especially KO, you know, what he had last game? 15? And, you know, just even when he only had, I'm sorry, excuse me. He had 12 tonight. I was looking at the offensive. He had 12 tonight. You know, that impacts the game. The second chance opportunities. I think he even had one where he got the and one. So that's real big for us.
Head coach Willie Green.
We like the big lineup so far. After many games of not being able to win the rebounding margin, we're winning that, and that's giving us extra possessions. It's allowing us to get out and play in transition. So we'll continue to explore. Kelly was really good tonight.
And Jim, so you hear Coach, you hear Zion talking about it. I thought it was real interesting, and you brought it up that it stood out to you yesterday after the game on the radio side, just like the TV side. We do a walk-off interview. And Graf had a very interesting question with C.J. McCollum.
CJ, are you surprised at the impact your two newest teammates have made on the team with Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown? And Brown had his best game tonight, but Kelly Olynyk has just been outstanding in the 3 games that he's played.
Yeah, he's been great. He's doing a terrific job of moving the ball, obviously rebounding. You know, he's got a great IQ. And for Bruce, it's about doing all the dirty work, pushing in transition, hitting the pocket, finishing around the basket, and bringing energy. So 2 vets who understand how to play the game the right way. Kelly was in my draft, so I got another 33-year-old on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely expecting Kelly to make an impact. I mean, the fact that he's done it so quickly maybe is a little bit surprising, the fact that he's meshed so well. But, I mean, on paper, theoretically, you think, okay, here's a stretch big who can shoot threes and passes really well. On paper, there's a lot of that makes sense as far as his fit next to Zion. And then Bruce Brown, kind of similar. He's more of just a versatile guy that's kind of jack of all trades that you would think that you can fit him in to a lot of different situations. Offensively, he hasn't played well if you just look at the shooting numbers in particular. But I do think that last night was a good step forward for Bruce Brown because he played really well, contributed across the board. So, I mean, if both of those guys continue to help the Pelicans win games, that's not going to be a surprise to me at all. I mean, I think that is what I expected. It's hard to predict in a situation like this where a team is out of the race in terms of short term how much they're going to boost the win column. But I mean, so far we're seeing it that they were able to beat the Spurs 2 out of 3 games, and then going back before the All-Star break, they beat Sacramento in the last game before the break. So they've won 3 out of 4. So that's considerably better than what we saw before that.
Look, you go back to what David Griffin said, right out of the All-Star break, where
basketball IQ.
He was like, "Look, he felt this team needed guys like that," and you know, we're talking. We always like to use as the reference on this show here, you know, gumbo, right? So many different ingredients, and a gumbo's supposed to look a certain way. It's supposed to taste a certain way, and you realize and recognize, well, that's a good gumbo, and I think. That's no different than trying to create a championship caliber team. You need youth. You need talent. You need a star. You need, like C.J. McCollum said, a guy that does the dirty work, that maybe doesn't pop on the box score. You need a guy that you just mentioned was a stretch big that shoots threes, but I'm thinking Kelly Olynyk right now, rebounding and passing out on breaks is something done. You mentioned defense. There's a lot of things that go into winning. And I think what Zion said, and I got to give credit to, I love hearing that from him, in which he talked about after last game, what is the goal right now? And what's the goal for the remainder of the year?
The goals have been more so a collective thing as the group. From seeing the young guys getting more minutes, seeing Bruce and KO out there getting their minutes, and just building towards, standards, building towards what we want to be, so that when next year starts, we don't have to figure it out. We're already there.
Look, I'm a Pels fan. I hear that. I'm not happy about 15 wins. I understand it. Lots of injuries. But you know me from when I did my talk show to this. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear and I want to see. What's the plan?
Sure.
What are we going to be? What are we trying to do? What is our identity? What will we be known for when an opposing podcast has the Pelicans on the schedule? I want Thayer Eichenhofer and Gus Kattengell to be like, "Oh, we know what's coming this, tonight."
Right.
And we haven't had that, right? And I get it because you don't have a set lineup. And as we talked about already in this podcast, start to see a couple of games together, same guys, better defense, better plus minuses, roles being, Jose coming off the bench with the energy, doing what he does, veteran help, helping the guys, not making the mistakes late in games, Zion being Z. I like this, and that's how you have to look at the final now 24 games.
Yeah, I like your analogy about the gumbo too, because for me, like I love shrimp. I feel like I'd eat shrimp all day. But if you give me a gumbo and it's only like 15 shrimp and there's only a little bit of everything else, that's not a good gumbo. Right. So I guess the tortured analogy I would make there is, sometimes if you have too much of guys that are offensive players and you're not getting some of the other categories that you mentioned, it's hard to win that way, or it's hard to maximize the roster or the ability that you have if you have too much duplication of certain skills. So I do think that the two guys that have come in have definitely checked some other boxes that maybe they needed, or that were lacking a little bit, that some of the things that we just talked about. But also, for both of those guys, but especially Kelly with what he's done so far. You talked about defense and the bench, but the rebounding thing is another thing that Willie Green mentioned too, that they've won the rebounding in all 3 games since the All-Star break. They lost the 6 before the All-Star break, including the game against Sacramento right before the hiatus that they actually won that game, but still lost the rebounding. So, that's been a big part of it, and it's been fun to watch them go with a totally different concept as far as the lineups go, with the bigger lineups, and get the results that they have, especially in the paint.
I think one of the other things, too, that happens as we kind of tease to our next segment here is you have to have the development of good players. And Karlo Matković getting an opportunity to get some minutes on the floor has been able to show maybe what he can do. And again, that's part of the learning process here in the last couple games here. What is his role? Where does he fit? Where does he stand? And we had a nice conversation with him, Jim. Quick preview. What really stood out with you?
Yeah, he's, for one thing, he really enjoys conversation. I've noticed that about him before, that he's great to have on a podcast.
Not the one that's on a hurry, right?
Yeah. He won't give you like a quick 10-second answer and then look at you for the next thing. He's one of those guys that you can ask him something and he'll talk for a few minutes. So it was enjoyable talking to him. I feel like he's one of those guys that everyone around the team has always really liked him. They've always been like, he's one of the more friendly guys. He also, you can probably tell this from listening to this too, his appreciation for being in the NBA and being in the position that he's in. That's something that I've always noticed as well. So whether it's, how much time he's going to put in the gym to work on his game, I think he definitely wants to maximize this, and he also is really enjoying the chance to play more. But even before he started getting on the court, he's somebody who he definitely feels like he's blessed to be in the position he's in. So he's been one of the better stories, I think, individually on the team over the last couple weeks. The fact that he's played so much more. Last night, we talked to him Monday, by the way, too, which was before last night's game. But he had 8 points and a couple of rebounds. It wasn't one of his bigger stat games that he's had lately, but before that, on Sunday, he had 19 points and 6 rebounds in only 21 minutes. So, he's been pretty consistently doing a really nice job at that backup center spot.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you saw that 3, though, in that highlight package that we started out the podcast with. It kind of started getting the offense going because they weren't hitting very many threes in that first half for sure. Here's our conversation with Karlo Matković. Still to come, Western Conference Wednesday. Teams whose stocks going up and down, and a team to watch. But first, here's Karlo. All right, here with our very special guest, Mr. Karlo Matković. It smells so nice in here, huh? Right. In here, the executive public relations offices, Mr. Jim Eichenhofer. We got like a little mood setting going on.
Candle in here? Man, unbelievable.
Flamingo State. Shout out CJ. Shout out CJ McCollum.
He has his own candle. I know he has his own wine line. I didn't know he had his own candle line.
Candle. You wouldn't know even socks. You know about the socks?
No. Yeah. Do you have some CJ McCollum socks?
I do not. I did not realize that he was an entrepreneur at that level. I knew about the wine. I didn't know about all these other lines of stuff that he has.
Well, maybe he's just trying it on you guys first to see if y'all like it.
Could be. We are testing.
No, I hear you, man. The whole different vibe at practice on Monday after what took place on Sunday, man. It's always nice to get a win, especially in a season like this, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to get a win and then have a practice back home, just to refresh, see what we did good, what we did bad. So, at a season like this, you're trying to find as much positive things as you can. So.
You've had a couple career highs. You set a career high in scoring, and then you did it again on Sunday in the game against the Spurs. I mean, what do you think has been if you can pick one or two things, what do you think has been the highlight of your rookie season so far? What stood out to you the most?
The highlight, I wouldn't say no highlights from the in-game. It's more about off-court stuff I do. Being ready and trying to stay focused. At the same path we did throughout the whole season, right? As I said before, being back and forth. You got to be ready for that. You got to embrace it. So I think that's the biggest highlight for me, in my opinion. Taking care of my mind and body. That I think I will highlight myself for that most than any other highlight on the court.
Sure. You referenced, when you say going back and forth, you mean the G League, and you spent time there last season as well. I think you averaged 17 and 10 this year. It seems like you had tons of success there in the games that you played, and then obviously making the transition to playing, with the NBA team. What do you think has been? What is the biggest adjustment that you have to make in terms of going from the G League to the NBA on the court? Is it the style of play, the pace, the talent? What do you think are some of the things that you have to adjust to the most?
I think definitely the pace. The pace with the talent. I think that's the biggest thing. G League kind of can slow down. Be static. Half court, set plays, whatever. Mm-hmm. Here, like you saw yesterday, let's say they want to take the ball out, after they make sprint back, you gotta sprint back immediate. In G League, it can be if you're on a run, you do that, but if they're not, it kind of slows down a little bit, and the talent ain't the same. Some players will go out crazily reckless, trying to get the statistic going, but I don't think that's what the G League is made for. I think you should do what other teams ask you to do, I guess. Sure. Because there's so many players in the league that can get you buckets, so I'm not scoring the G League 30 every game don't matter nothing. You gotta get the rebounds, play defense, block shots, make your shots, read the game well, be natural about it. I think that's the point of the G League, to just develop, bring your confidence up and stuff like that.
Sure. As far as on the court, you just referenced, doing other things besides scoring in the G League, blocking shots. One of the stats that stands out to me is through Sunday's game against the Spurs, you've had at least one block in 10 straight games. I'm not sure if you were aware of that stat, but we've talked about on the podcast about how impressive that is to have that stat, but also the fact that it's not like you're playing 30, 35 minutes a game, that you're able to get a block every game for a long stretch here in the minutes that you've gotten. What are your thoughts on defensively? You feel like you've made progress? You feel like is shot blocking something that you are focused on and that at that end of the floor?
Well, I think my shot blocking and Eve's shot blocking ain't the same. Not even close. He just comes out of nowhere and blocks the shot. Mm-hmm. I gotta be on time at the specific moment, at the right place, to block the shot. So I would just say just the timing. But let's say last year back home, I averaged in 2 leagues three blocks per game. Mm-hmm. So out here now, when you come, like you said, minutes, whatever. But the talent is different. Players will come out, bump you, score over you, over the length. Don't matter. That's why they play. That's why they in the league. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. But being at the right time, at the right moment somewhere, to block the shot, I think that's one of the things I have. Still getting there, and it's not always perfect, of course, but using my athleticism still, of course. It's not only that Eve can jump, I can jump too, come on. But it's a different talent, so you got to be more sharp and focused, watching, throughout the practice, you kind of notice, what somebody like to do, where they don't like to go, and you're trying to push them there, and try to get that block. So I think it's more just learning the players, stuff like that to get that block. So sometimes it just happens randomly, sometimes not, Like let's say I had a block when somebody's going for a dunk, you got to go contest it. You blocked it, but sometimes it's just like, you will try to go get it and you get it. Like let's say Dallas and Don tags him. It was like basically a random slap. Everybody else could, but just a good position at the good moment, like you should be. I think I was there, I'm trying to be every time in the defense in a good position at the right moment, it's going to make your job easier. So
do you feel like you've made progress in terms of, there's a lot of times the block is what you do before the block, not the actual play. Do you feel like as you've gotten more time on the court that, like you said, you block shots in the G League, so this isn't any brand new thing, but and I think you had some at the beginning of the season too when you were playing sporadically. But do you feel like the experience that you've gotten has led to that becoming a consistent thing that you're doing every game?
Yeah, definitely. I think experience, getting in the game a lot, just getting that flow of the game. When you get the flow of the game, I think then it becomes like natural. Because I think when you learn something and then the pace kind of changes, you got to adjust to it. And then when you adjust to it, it kind of gets natural and as same as it was before. You just got better, faster, I guess, more aware. I think more aware is the right word for it. I think that helps a lot.
One of the things that you said after Sunday night's game in the post-game press conference when you were speaking at this podium stood out to me. I don't think anyone followed up and asked you more specifically, but one of the things that you said was the place where I come from, not many make it. What did you mean specifically by that? Were you talking about like your background growing up?
All right. Yeah, like when I grew up, people basically live there for their whole life. Now the younger generation trying to go out other countries like Germany, like in Croatia, Bosnia. My hometown city is in Bosnia, but I'm Croatian. You gotta get that right though. I heard a lot of time I'm Bosnian. I'm not. I was just born there. Not a big deal, but I'm just saying. But yeah, like they will go to Germany, other countries, even to states. But a lot of people struggle there, struggling. It's not that bad of a struggle though, but I see that life as it's tough life. You will do the same job for the same amount of years. I'm looking at my dad and mom, policeman and a lady in a kindergarten. They've been doing the same job, for how many years, and like the moment I realized how much they get paid for and how hard it is actually, to live and like being in debt all the time, stuff like that. The amount of stuff we have available, to us is not as much as, let's say, the States, not too much opportunities. You basically follow your father's footsteps, It's not easy, to go somewhere, especially in sports too. We actually have a lot of talent, but like a lot of talent doesn't go through. We have Mata Rimas that made it like fastest car ever. He's from Livno. Coach Dalic that won like 2 medals in the World Cup and Europeans the last couple of years. He's from Livno. So and then now it's me there. But it's still tough. There's like a lot of talent out there. Kids know they're just basically having sports for fun. And there's not really like a chance. Even for me, I was like, what's the chance for me to be here today? Let's say 10 years ago when I was back home. Who would have thought? Nobody, we just did that for fun. We didn't know for better, I would say like that. And then what you have is what you have, out of minimalistic stuff, you make the most of it. So I wouldn't put it we're poor there and stuff. Kinda is, but kinda ain't. I just think we are not able, to show what we have because the things we don't have there. The schools are limited, the colleges, money, of course. How it is. But people out there actually love to live there, though. It's peaceful, calm nature. We have a lot of resources that's from nature, so that's cool. I get a lot of stuff for food from my grandma's place. From the garden. She had cows and pigs, so we would eat and feed off of that, so that was for me that's great. I like it, village lifestyle, quote unquote. But yeah, from the small city I came from, it's hard to get somewhere and it's rare. I would say it's rare. Kids basically look to go in in other countries and don't come back most of the time. So I'm I love my city. I like to go back there every summer, be with my people that I grew up with, helping others if I can, Sure. You never know, but yeah, I would say I wouldn't put like too much bad stuff on it, but yeah, it's tough to get out of there. You know, when you get out of there once, like you better keep on pace, or you gotta go back, and then what? You know, you gotta work some like jobs, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I can't imagine myself doing that. Actually, I'm doing it right now, but it's not the same. I'm playing the sport. It's not the same as working in the office or whatever. Like some guys really love it. For me, it's not it. But knowing myself, like one time I had actually opportunity, like talking to my dad. I just started playing basketball, went out of my home. I was 14, Christmas break coming up, and I'm talking to my dad. What can I do? I miss my family, friends. It's just work. And then he told me it's a double-edged sword. Like if you're gonna come back home, what you gonna do? If you stay, you never know what can happen. So like that Christmas time, like back in the day, kind of talked to him, helped. I think made the right decision. And then after that, a year after, I was like, Dad, I don't want to go home. I'm cool here. I'm chilling. Made friends there. Like I lived there. Trying to like embrace the city and stuff. And then when I did, I want to live in that city in Zagreb, and I was there. I want to live there when I like retire and stuff. I want to make a family there and stuff. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, what you guys get to do is amazing. I mean, you're extremely blessed to be able to get that. I mean, even what Gus and I get to do. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, these aren't real jobs. Like I've worked a real job before, and this isn't it.
Very hard.
But yeah, I mean, compared to people that have jobs where they really have to grind every day and do stuff that they don't love to do, stuff that they're doing because it's a job and you have to get paid, right? So I mean, it seems like you definitely appreciate the opportunity that you have, and that's been part of your success, of the fact that you want to embrace this and you want to capitalize on it. One of the things I wanted to ask you about too, along the same lines, was the 3-point shooting development that you've done. I mean, how do you feel about the progress that you've made with that? And I'm not sure if it's the kind of thing where a year or two ago, would you have seen like being able to comfortably take threes in a regular season NBA game the way that you have, and shot the way that you have, just to be able to come in the game and make those? Right.
Like first time I started making shots, like shooting actually was like last year, right, in Europe, and I actually shot good. I shot like 40%, something like that. I didn't take too much. I was like three shots a game, but still, I had some games, multiple 3 points a game. But I think I just developed my game in that way because like the game requires it to. I think I always had a shot. I had a soft touch, but like the coaches didn't allow me to shoot. Basically, sometimes that's how it is in Europe. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I think that's good, because like now developing it, making it look better and better throughout the days. I think that's gonna help me a lot to grow, and like it's gonna show my growth that I'm moving from place to place. I'm not staying at one position, So I like it. But like you said, like 2 years ago, would I shot the same shot? I don't know. Not gonna lie, I don't know. But right now I feel comfortable, especially corner shots. I feel comfortable. Like I shot even the top shots in the G League. Like you saw, I made it. So just about the game script, the game plan. Like if I'm gonna shoot the corners only, I'm gonna practice corners only. That's how it is. I don't mind it. I like it. I enjoy it. I love it. I like working with House, Eves, Moose. It's like it's been great. Like throughout the whole season, talking to them and seeing us, even our connection growth. It's actually like pretty fun. So
has your experience been different in terms of like what you experienced in Europe compared to the NBA in terms of the coaches' willingness to have the big shoot threes? Is it the kind of thing where it's like more encouraged in the NBA that even a guy that is your size go out there and shoot threes?
All right, I would say yes and no, but like how much years already like the big men are shooting threes? I think we got used to it already. So I think now that's becoming a norm in a way. Yeah, it's different, hella different. Like, game here requires to shoot threes. Like, coaches says, like, we got to shoot 40 a game. In Europe, if coaches say we got to shoot 40 a game, that's going to be a wild game. So it's like, of course, the game is shorter, different pace, so it's different. It's more like script-based, like trading buckets and there, like that doesn't exist, whatever. It's like set run, like not it's not there like that. Like it's always sets transition if it happens, but like don't go crazy. Like if you miss a transition shot, coach go wild. You know how it is back in Europe. It's much more different.
More structure.
But I think, of course, more games. Much more less games. More time to prepare for the game, scouting and whatever. Here you're gonna be in and out. Flying a lot, There you have like a few days off in between. Like it's still tough though. EuroLeague is tough. Like I know players who play there. Like you understand how it is. It's tough. It's tough even there with the less games. But like in some weeks, like you can have like really tough games because like it's physical there too. The players are really like getting into it. So all the 40 minutes, like you get worn out. People get worn out there. So it's really I like EuroLeague. I love it. So I love the NBA too. But like I'm saying, like praise the EuroLeague too for some stuff they do. But it's much more different being 3-point shooter here as a big and there.
Sure.
So
yeah, I mean one of the things that stands out that you touched on too is the ratio of practice to games there is a lot higher. Whereas here, it's like you have weeks where you play 4 or 5 games, you can't even get a practice in because the days off are after a back-to-back, and that's customary that you don't practice after that. So last thing from me. I was wondering how you spent All-Star Weekend. And also, I want to say, I'm not sure if you know this, but I actually had family in town, and my nephew was here that you met briefly. And we saw you shooting threes. So I thought that was interesting that I saw you here, practicing. I think you were the only one here in the gym at that time. But what was All-Star Weekend like? Was it just all about, I'm going to keep working on my game?
Yeah, basically, I was like, I want to stay in NOLA, not going nowhere. I had like options to go to see my friends, like, Florida, Toronto, a little bit of Arkansas, San Diego. I had options.
Yeah.
But I was like, nah, I need just, to stay home, embrace the city a little bit. We always be on the road. I would not stay a little bit in NOLA, spend my time here, get some good food, enjoy it. Weather was nice. Mm-hmm. I was really enjoying it. I would come in more in the gym or later at night, whatever, the weight room, get my shots up, and just like stay in shape. I don't want to lose no condition. So I was like, I basically loved it. Really took care of myself, chilling, not doing too much, being home, getting coffee, just good food, chilling out. So I didn't do too much except being in the gym a little bit and then at home a little bit, I just mixed it like that. I loved it. Actually, I loved it. It was good.
What's your routine when you're here by yourself shooting? Were you listening? It sounded like you were listening to music from your country, maybe? Yeah. I definitely was not familiar with the music that was playing.
It's always from some from Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, some from the Balkans. I like our songs, because I don't listen to it too much when we're here. I don't have opportunity because boys be like, what the hell is this? But I like it. I enjoy it. I will come here though, I will shoot 500 corner shots. I would shoot 500 corner shots, to try to make as much as I can. Basically that's the routine, 250 one corner, 250 other corner, and then do weight room when I'm by myself, as much as you can do on machine. And then maybe get some floats in, stuff I can work by myself, or be great if he's here, I will do with him, because coaches were off, but, everybody needs some off, everybody needed some time off. I even they told me, maybe take some break, chill out. I took 2 days off, not doing exactly nothing. So I think that was enough, that was just perfectly enough. So yeah, it was slight routine, not crazy, just to get be sharp. I'll say like that. Be in the gym. Being in the gym helps a lot too. Just being in the gym alone. Being with the basketball.
My only final thing, man, you heard Zion say it after the game yesterday that while there's only 25 games left, it's important to have some sort of momentum going into next year, for a player like you to show, hey, you belong in this rotation, you belong what your role is, what your fit is, and to try to work with some of these guys. All these games matter, don't they, Terry? All
right, definitely. For me, yeah. For me, I think for other people too, nobody want to finish the season bad, especially this year. A lot of injuries, unlucky. But we don't want to give up and stuff. We got to play every game same, go at it fully. I don't think there's no rest games or whatever, nobody care games. Everybody cares, we work this job, we are here for the fans, fans come over, we cannot disappoint them too, even if it's last 20 games, quote unquote, don't mean nothing. You're not gonna get to the playoff, quote unquote, whatever. I don't believe like that. You know, people still support you. You know, people still come out to watch you. You know, and you gotta bring them a show, kind of. You know, you gotta show your work too. Like, you know, that you like increasing yourself. You know, you're getting better every day. So it's a good opportunity for everybody, not just me or like rookies or like young guys. But I'm trying to use as much as I can to learn. You know, I'm not stressing about, you know, I gotta play better, so I have to get my, you know, like rotation in. I'm more thinking about I gotta make myself better, so like just to improve my game and be a better player than I was yesterday. You know, win day by day, as Willie said multiple times. You know, you gotta come in and win the day. You know, so I'm trying to do that more than anything else, and then throughout the game, just learn. You know, see what's good for me, like where do I fit, how do I fit, you know, what's my good thing, what my bad thing, what should I avoid, what should I not, stuff like that. Basically, like, you know, learning the game, and throughout the games, you know, I think I'm feeling more comfortable every game in and out. So yeah, basically that we'll work on that, and then, you know, taking care of the body.
I'm just happy you dunk. He knows. I need dunks. I want more plays above the rim, alley-oops, all of that. So it's a pleasure. I love seeing that.
Alley-oops. We love alley-oops. We need more alley-oops.
How do you say alley-oop in your country?
We basically said the alley-oop.
Oh, there it is. It is. So it's a universal language of playing above the rim.
It's a basketball game, you know. Like, you know, we made the three. We say three. You know, we don't say trica. We say trica somehow, there like that.
Okay, I like that.
You know, three. Everybody yelling Kobe. You know, it's not like I'm familiar. You know, it's basically the same when you look at it. But yeah, it's alley-oop. You know, throw me an oop. It's basically, you know, batsi oop. Throw one hoop, like it's always, you know, American lifestyle. Bring there, like everybody likes it. You know, everybody likes it. That's the game. How it is.
I love it, man. Thank you for your time, Karlo.
Always appreciate it.
All right, thanks to Karlo Matković there for a few minutes of his time. Always a great conversation, as you said. He's very appreciative of getting the opportunity to be around there as well. I'm very interested in the playlist, though. I want to hear the music.
Yeah, I tell you. It's hard for me to even describe the music that I heard. I mean, I would describe it as pop, whatever version of Croatian pop music, maybe. I guess I would need Karlo to come in back here and explain to me what it was, but that's what it sounded like to me. But yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't necessarily something that I would be enjoying listening to, but then again, he probably doesn't like my music either. So
what is your playlist? We'll do that on a future podcast.
I like heavier stuff, so I know that a lot of people are surprised when I say that. I don't look like I would be a metal guy, but I mean that's kind of a little bit of what I grew up with. Okay. So
I like that.
Yeah,
we will definitely explore that on a future podcast for sure. But first.
All right, y'all. Now it's time for Western Conference Wednesday. Mr. Eichenhofer will tell us whose stock is up and whose stock is down. So let's get started. Jim, what is our team to keep an eye on for this week?
Well, Mallory, the team to watch over the next 7 days is the Denver Nuggets. And the reason I picked them is really pretty clearly because of their schedule. Right now, the Nuggets are third place in the West, but they're tied with Memphis, the Grizzlies are technically second, but they have the exact same record as Denver, so that's a really good race. The Nuggets have a game at Milwaukee Thursday. They're at Detroit Friday, and then Sunday they have a huge game at Boston, on ABC, which I think a lot of people will definitely be watching. So Nuggets have a very intriguing East Coast or Eastern Conference trip and that's why I picked them. Pelicans are done with the Nuggets, by the way. They went 1-3 against Denver in the 4 games that they played them. For stock up, I'm going with the Golden State Warriors and Jimmy Butler. The Warriors have won 4 games in a row. They're 6-1 out of their last 7 games. During this 4-game winning streak, they've had some really impressive wins. They won at Houston. They won at Sacramento by a big margin. Then they beat the Mavericks also by a lot of points. And then they just totally demolished Charlotte last night, which, you know, the Hornets have been struggling, other than when they played the Lakers. So the Warriors are 8th place in the West right now, but they're only a half game behind the 6th place Clippers. So, I mean, the Warriors have a chance to really move up the standings if they continue to play the way they have. I mean, not long ago it was looking like, are they even going to make the play-in? Are they even going to be in the top 10? But they've been so hot lately, and the addition of Jimmy Butler seems like he's fit in seamlessly. Mm-hmm. Warriors play the Pelicans March 28th in New Orleans. I think that's really the most marquee home game that the Pelicans have left this season. So get your tickets now for that game coming up in a few weeks. And then lastly, Stock Down, a team that we saw twice in the last 3 days in the Smoothie King Center. The San Antonio Spurs are now 24-32. They've lost 3 games in a row. They're only 3-8 in their last 11 games. They're only 3-6 since De'Aaron Fox made his debut in a win against Atlanta. Spurs are also only 1-3 since Wembanyama was ruled out for the season, and the 4 games that they played since the All-Star break, their only win was against Phoenix. And I think one of the things that stood out to me the most, too, when you look at the standings, that's a little bit shocking right now, Spurs are actually down to 13th place, and Portland is actually ahead of the Spurs now in the standings, technically. I think they're both 4.5 games out of 10th place, but the fact that, if you think about the way that the Spurs started the season and the way the Trailblazers started, the fact that Portland's been able to move ahead of them is pretty surprising. So, I mean, realistically, the Pelicans really handed the Spurs a couple very costly losses. That might have been the point of the season where the Spurs look at it like, that was where we kind of fell out of the race. Still 4.5 games out, so it's not like it's impossible for them to rally back. But I think if you look at the way some of the teams that are playing ahead of them, that are in 8th, 9th, and 10th place, some of those kind of teams, it's going to be very difficult for them to rally back, especially without having Wemby the rest of the season. Pelicans have 1 game left against the Spurs. That's March 15th in San Antonio. That'll wrap up the season series. Pelicans are up 2-1 in the season series against the Spurs, so they'll have a chance to beat them to finish up 3-1. And by the way, too, before I wrap up quickly, again, kind of big picture stuff. Pelicans are, despite a couple wins that they've had lately, they're still really entrenched in what I would say the bottom 5 of the standings is. The Philadelphia has the 6th worst record in the league right now. They have 20 wins. The Pelicans only have 15. So, I mean, they still have a pretty big distance to go before they would even be able to catch the Sixers. And then lastly, just one quick note, too. Pelicans announced this morning that Brandon Boston has been signed to a standard deal. He's played 42 games this season. I'm not sure if there's a couple other games that he's been active for, but they had to keep him under the 50 games while he was on a 2-way deal. So now you don't have to worry about that at all. You can play him as much as you want. And Jalen Crutcher was moved up to a 2-way contract deal. So that is the roster moves that were announced at 10 a.m. this morning.
All right. Well, there you go. Anything else, sir, before we bid farewell?
No, I'm just looking forward to this road trip. And I think all of the stuff that we talked about in the first segment, I think it'll be interesting to monitor how can the Pelicans maintain the level of defense and rebounding that they've done lately when they play these 2 games against Phoenix, the game Sunday against Utah, and then the big game Tuesday against the Lakers on Mardi Gras Day.
Yeah, I know you're looking forward to that.
For sure, Gus. I can't wait.
There it is. The
I'm going to be in the studio for that one. You're going to be able to experience me during a Pelicans-Lakers game. What a treat.
It's going to be a real treat, no doubt for sure. All right, as always, thank you for tuning us in. Again, Thursday, Friday, 8 o'clock tip times, 7:30 Pelicans warm-up on Sunday to 7 o'clock tip times, 6:30 Pelicans warm-up. And yes, 9 p.m. we will get you started for the 9:30 tip on Mardi Gras Day against the Lakers. I didn't know. Did you know the Lakers took on the Mavericks last night?
Yes, I heard about that.
Greatest win of all time, by the way. I didn't know if you knew that this morning. That's the most majestic win ever of all time. Yes.
I feel like people were disappointed that Luka didn't shoot better. People were hoping that he was going to get like 50, 60 points.
You weren't happy with the triple-double.
Even some Mavericks fans, I think, were hoping that he was going to have a huge game, which I'm not sure how to compute that in my brain. But, yeah. No, I mean, the fact that he had a triple-double was big, and the fact that they won. I was surprised, too, Gus, by the way, that the game was as close as it was.
Well, it was a 1-point
game with like 7, 8 minutes left, something like that.
It was like a 3 or 4 point game with about 3 to 4 minutes there, and it really was a missed shot and then a defensive turnover and then a putback and a dunk by LeBron on a missed shot that made it a 3-point game and 5-point game. But it was tied and back and forth with under 3 to go. And that was the thing that was so interesting because I did enjoy my dog walk this morning listening to national radio. And again, that win is just big. Now they're championship contenders. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not saying they're not. That's a different Dallas team in about a month.
They have so many guys out right now.
As we know, that is a very tall team, like Gafford, Anthony Davis,
Derek Lively.
Yeah. When those three guys come back and they're expected to be back by playoff time,
Sure.
that is going to be a completely different team. And most of the points that the Lakers got late in that game were put back dunks or shots off the glass. They were not three-pointers. They were not jump shots. They were attacking the rim and cleaning up stuff. That's not going to be there in there. So let them have their fun and enjoy it. But that Dallas team is going to be very interesting because that is going to be a very tall team.
Yeah, and even before we get to the playoffs, they play each other April 9th in Dallas. So that'll be – and I would assume that by then the Mavericks will have a bunch of those bigs back. And if you think about it, too, that's definitely the Lakers' biggest weakness. They tried to trade for a center in Charlotte, and they rescinded the trade, and so now they have a hole there.
Yeah, that didn't get fixed.
The Mavericks will be able to, you would think theoretically on paper that the Mavericks will be able to take advantage of their lack of size or their lack of rebounding and interior defense in a way that they couldn't in last night's game because all three of those guys are still sidelined with injuries.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, we could do this all day, but it was interesting to see. I'm going to be interested to see some of the teams that make it to the playoffs and once those first round matchups happen. So we'll see what takes place. That's Jim. I'm Gus. Thank you for tuning us in. We'll see you back on Wednesday, a week from today. No podcast Friday, no podcast Monday because Jim's going to be parading. So we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes, I will be the Grand Marshal. Maybe no.
There it is.
I keep waiting for the word back on what I was named as, and I haven't heard anything. So I'm getting a little concerned that maybe I was not honored with anything, considering it's already Wednesday.
If you don't know by now, I'm going to say we'll have to wait till next year. We'll get you on something next year.
Okay.
We'll get you on something.
Okay.
All right. Until then, we'll see you next time on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, the iHeartRadio app, or where you get your podcasts. And be sure to give Jim and Gus a follow on X at Jim_Eichenhofer and GCat_17. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.